My wife and her brother secretly forged my name on a $200, $0 property deed, then used it to remortgage our house and split the cash. Now she's filing for divorce and claiming I'm the one stealing, but I have proof the whole thing was her betrayal. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be everything I thought she wasn't, except maybe that she was a liar and a cheat. It all started with little things, you know. Small signs that I brushed off at first: a missed call here, a late night there, her phone ringing at odd hours, but she'd always dismiss it with a smirk and some excuse about work or her friend Jane. I was busy with work myself, trying to build a life, a home, a future. We had a decent house in a quiet neighborhood, 2 kids, and what I thought was a solid marriage. But then things started to feel off. Lisa became more secretive, more dismissive, and she'd get defensive if I asked about her phone or her whereabouts. She'd snap at me for no reason, accuse me of being paranoid. I remember one night, I came home early from a business trip, expecting to surprise her, and I caught her in the act in our bedroom with her brother, Mark. They were tangled up on the bed, lips pressed together like they were trying to hide the world. I froze, blood rushing to my head. It was like a punch to the stomach. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Her brother, Mark, of all people, I'd always trusted him. We'd been close, like family, and now I saw him betraying me right in my own house. That moment felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I didn't say a word at first. I just watched, stunned, as they scrambled to cover themselves. Lisa's face was a mask of guilt and defiance, and Mark looked like he wanted to crawl under the bed. I felt sick. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? How could she do this to me? I was furious, betrayed, humiliated. I didn't even know what to say. I just turned around and left the house, my mind spinning. I knew I needed to confront her, but I also knew I had to gather proof. I couldn't just accuse her without evidence, especially when she'd lie her ass off and deny everything. That's when I started digging. The next few days were hell. Lisa acted like nothing had happened, like I was overreacting. She threw tantrums, called me paranoid, accused me of spying on her. But I wasn't going down that easy. I started watching her phone, tracking her movements, listening to her calls when I could. And then I found something that made my blood run cold: a series of texts between her and Mark, talking about covering their tracks, getting the money, and how to make sure he never finds out. She'd been planning this entire thing. They forged a deed, took out a mortgage on our house, and split the cash. Over $200, $0 gone just like that. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I went to a lawyer. Got copies of the deed, the mortgage documents, everything. I was stunned to see her signature forged not just once but multiple times. She manipulated me from the start, and I'd been blind to it. I felt sick to my stomach. How could she do this? How could she betray me, our family, our future? I couldn't believe I'd married a woman capable of such deception. It was like waking up from a dream and realizing the person you loved has been lying to you for years. I was furious but also hurt. Deep down, I felt crushed. It was a betrayal unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Now I had all the proof I needed. I knew I couldn't stay silent. I wanted justice, not just for the money, but for the lies, the betrayal, the broken trust. I decided I'd confront her directly, but I also prepared for the worst. I knew Lisa, and I knew she'd lie her way out of this. Her version of the story would be full of bullshit, I was sure of that. But I had the evidence. I was ready to fight, to expose her, and to take back what was mine. The question was, how far was she willing to go? Would she admit everything, or would she double down and try to destroy me? That's when I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about my dignity, my reputation, and my future. I'll tell you this: betrayal cuts deep. It's like a knife through your chest that you can't pull out. I've been through a lot in my life, but nothing prepared me for this level of deception. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew us. But the truth was, I was living with a stranger. And now I had to decide what to do next. Do I fight for my marriage, or do I walk away and rebuild from the ashes? The answer wasn't clear yet, but one thing was certain: I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. After I gathered the evidence, the forged signatures, the mortgage documents, the texts between Lisa and Mark, I knew I had everything I needed to confront her. Still, I wasn't in any rush. I needed to think carefully about my next move. I'd never thought I'd be in a situation where I had to plan revenge, but here I was, feeling like a fool and furious at the same time. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, and I also wanted to make sure I protected myself and my kids from any further damage. One night I decided to call her out. I told her I wanted to talk, just us. She was her usual bitchy self, acting like I was overreacting. "You're crazy, John," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I'm working late. Mark and I are just friends. You're imagining things." She had this way of twisting everything, making me question whether I was losing it, but I had proof. I sat her down in the living room, laid everything out on the table: the forged signatures, the mortgage, the texts. Her face twisted in anger, then in denial. "That's not true," she spat. "You're just trying to ruin me. Mark and I aren't doing anything wrong. You're paranoid and you're insecure." I looked at her, feeling a mixture of disgust and heartbreak. She lied so effortlessly, like breathing. I couldn't believe I'd been married to someone capable. This level of deception. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was just jealous and paranoid, that I was making everything up. But I had the proof, and I knew she was lying. I told her I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I said I knew about her affair, about the forged deed, and about how she'd taken the money. I told her I was done playing her game. Her reaction was priceless. She looked furious, then scared, then downright bitchy. "You think you're so smart, huh?" she sneered. "You think you can just come in here and accuse me of everything? You're crazy if you think I'm going to sit here and take this. I've got a life too, you know. I have needs." That last part hit me like a punch. Needs. She was out there cheating, forging documents, stealing from us, and she's talking about her needs. I felt my stomach turn. The betrayal was one thing, but the audacity of her lying about everything, dismissing my feelings, that was what really pushed me over the edge. Over the next few days, I stayed quiet, watching her, waiting for the right moment. I knew she was planning something. She was trying to spin her story, probably to the lawyer she was already talking to, trying to make me look like the villain. I also knew I couldn't just sit back and let her manipulate the situation. I had to act fast. I contacted a private investigator to follow her, to see if she was meeting Mark or anyone else, and to find out exactly what she was doing. I also reached out to my lawyer, who told me I had a solid case. The forged deed was the smoking gun, and she couldn't deny it. One night I caught her sneaking around the house with her phone, whispering into it. When I looked over her shoulder, I saw a message from Mark: "We need to meet tonight and I have the money. Let's do this right." That was it. I knew she was planning to run, or at least to cover her tracks. I felt a cold fury rise inside me. I decided enough was enough. I was going to expose her once and for all, and I was going to take back what was mine. I had to do something big, something that would make her regret every lie she ever told me. The next day I confronted her again, this time with everything I had. I told her I knew about her plans, about the money, about her affair with Mark. Her face drained of color. She stammered, tried to deny everything, but I cut her off. "You're not going anywhere," I said. "You're going to explain everything now, and you're going to give me back the money. If you don't, I swear I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You forged my signature, stole from us, and you betrayed me with your brother. How do you sleep at night?" Her eyes flashed with anger, but I saw her trembling. She knew I had her cornered. The truth was, I was just getting started. I had the proof, I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight for my rights. I knew this was going to get ugly, but I didn't care. I was done being the victim. I wanted justice. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, and I was determined to make sure she never did this to anyone else again. That's when my plan for revenge really started to take shape. I wasn't just going to confront her and walk away. No, I wanted her to feel what I felt: betrayed, humiliated, and broken. I was going to turn her world upside down, and I was going to do it in a way she'd never see coming. But first, I had to keep my cool, gather everything I needed, and make sure I was ready for whatever she threw at me next, because I knew she wasn't going down without a fight. Once I had everything laid out in front of her, proof of the forged deed, the mortgage documents, the incriminating texts. Her reaction was nothing short of pure rage. She sat there, eyes blazing, trying to dismiss everything, claiming I was crazy and making things up. She said I was just jealous because she was more successful than I'd ever been, that it was all just a misunderstanding. That's when I realized how much she'd been spinning her web of lies, feeding herself this delusional story where she's the victim and I'm the villain. I didn't buy it. Not anymore. I told her straight, "Lisa, I've got the proof. You forged my name on that deed. You took out a mortgage on our house and you and Mark split the money. Don't bother lying anymore. I know everything." Her face twisted like she'd been caught in a trap. She tried to deny it, of course, but I cut her off. "You think I don't have witnesses? I've already contacted a private investigator. I have all the bank statements, the legal documents. You're done." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. She knew she'd been caught, and she knew I wasn't backing down. Her reaction was classic. She started crying, but not because she was sorry, because she was trying to manipulate me. "You don't understand," she wailed. "Mark and I were in love. I was just trying to get out of this marriage, and he's the only one who truly cares about me. You're so blind, John. You work all the time. You're never here." Maybe I was just looking for someone who would listen. I couldn't believe her. She had the nerve to sit there and spin some sob story about how she was a victim of my neglect. That's rich coming from someone who's been sneaking around with her brother and stealing from her own family. I felt a surge of anger and disgust. I told her flat, "You're a liar, Lisa. You cheated on me, you forged my signature, and you stole our house's equity. You think I'm just going to roll over and let you walk away with everything? No. I want the truth and I want the money back. If you don't give me what's mine, I swear I'll go to the authorities and I'll make sure everyone knows what you did." Her face darkened and she snapped back, "You're just trying to ruin me, John. You're crazy if you think I'm going down without a fight." That's when I decided I wasn't going to hold back anymore. I told her I had already contacted a lawyer and I was prepared to take her to court for everything. Every penny, every lie, every betrayal. I also told her I was planning to expose her to our family, to my friends, and to anyone who mattered. Her mask of innocence crumbled further. She started yelling, saying I was abusive, that I'd always been controlling, that I'd never loved her, but I knew the truth. I knew she'd been lying from the start. She was the one who'd been manipulative, deceitful, and selfish. That night, I went to bed feeling both exhausted and victorious, at least in some small way. I'd confronted her with the truth, and I'd made it clear that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I knew she'd try to spin things, to twist the narrative, but I had the evidence, and I was ready for whatever came next. I started planning my next move, how to get the money back, how to protect my kids, and how to make her face the consequences of her actions. But I also felt a gnawing sense of sadness. I'd loved Lisa once, or at least I thought I did. Now I saw her for what she truly was, a liar, a thief, a manipulator. It hurt to realize how much I'd been blind, how many signs I'd ignored. I kept asking myself, how did it all go so wrong? How did the woman I trusted with everything turn into someone capable of forging my name, betraying our vows, and stealing from her own family? The heartbreak was real, but so was my resolve. I wasn't going to let her ruin me, not without a fight. The next few days were a whirlwind. I prepared legal documents, contacted the authorities, and planned my strategy. I knew she'd try to deny everything, spin some story about how she was the victim, but I had the proof. I also decided to file for divorce, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I couldn't stay married to someone so dishonest. I had to protect myself, my kids, and my future. I was done being the naive husband who trusted blindly. Now I was fighting back, and I was determined to come out on top. The day I finally decided to act was intense. I sat down with my lawyer, Mark, and laid everything out. Every piece of evidence, every lie she'd told, and every betrayal I'd uncovered. It was clear to me now that this wasn't just about the money. It was about her total disregard for our marriage, for our family, for everything we built together. The forged deed, the remortgage, the texts, everything pointed to a calculated plan to steal from us and then spin a web of lies to cover her tracks. My lawyer was thorough. He explained that I had a strong case for fraud, breach of trust, and financial exploitation. The forgery alone was enough to seek full legal action. I remember feeling this strange mix of anger and relief. Anger that she'd done this, and relief that I finally had proof to fight back. I told him I wanted her out of the house immediately, and I wanted full custody of the kids. I didn't want her near our children while she was still spinning her web of lies. The next step was confronting Lisa again. I called her into the living room and she knew something was coming. Her face was tense, like she was already planning her next move. I told her I had no choice but to take legal action, that I had proof and I was going to expose her to everyone she cared about. Her eyes widened, then she started to cry again, but this time it felt different. It was desperation, not remorse. She begged me to listen, to hear her out. "John, I swear I didn't mean for this to happen. Mark and we were just tired of the way you were ignoring us. I thought I could fix everything, but I got carried away. It was a mistake, a huge mistake. Please don't ruin me over this." Her voice cracked, and I could see she was trying to manipulate me to make me feel guilty, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her she had to leave the house immediately, and I was pressing charges for the forgery and theft. She looked at me with pure hatred, but I felt nothing but cold resolve. In the following days, I made arrangements to have her served with papers. I also contacted the bank, the mortgage company, and the authorities. I wanted everything documented every step of the way. Meanwhile, Lisa was still trying to spin her story, claiming I was crazy, that I was trying to ruin her, and that I was jealous of her success. I couldn't believe how much she lied. She had the nerve to call me controlling, but she was the one sneaking around with her brother, forging my signature and stealing from us. That was the real control, the real betrayal. The day she was served with the legal papers was like a huge weight lifted. She looked furious, her bitchy attitude replaced by pure rage. She yelled and cursed, claiming I was destroying her life and that I was the worst husband in the world. I just looked at her coldly and said, "You did this to yourself, Lisa. You stole from me, you betrayed our family, and now you're going to pay for it." That's when she finally realized she was cornered. Her facade of innocence crumbled entirely. The legal process moved quickly after that. The court ordered her to vacate the house, and I moved to secure full custody of the kids. I wanted them safe and away from her manipulations. Throughout it all, I felt a strange combination of relief and heartbreak. Relief that I'd finally taken control, and heartbreak because I knew I was losing someone I once loved. I never thought I'd be fighting my wife for my own life savings, for my family's stability, but there I was. It was like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. In the meantime, I kept the evidence close. I knew Lisa would try to lie her way out of this. She'd probably come up with some story to turn the tables to make me look like the bad guy. I prepared myself for that. I also started talking to friends and family about what happened, not to trash her, but to be honest about the situation. They couldn't believe it either. They knew Lisa as a bitchy, manipulative woman, but even they were shocked by how far she'd gone. I learned a lot about trust and betrayal in those days. I learned that sometimes the people you love can turn out to be the biggest liars. Now I was just waiting for the legal process to finish. I wanted the court to make everything official so I could finally move on. I knew she'd fight, try to drag this out, but I was prepared for that. I had the proof, I had the law on my side, and I was determined to get what was rightfully mine. The whole thing had been a nightmare, but I refused to let her win. I'd rebuild my life, start fresh, and make sure she never did this to anyone else. Again, that's what kept me going, the hope that justice would be served, and that I could finally put this betrayal behind me. The legal battles dragged on longer than I expected. Lisa was relentless, trying to twist the story, claiming I was the one stealing from her, that I was controlling and abusive. She even hired her own lawyer and tried to drag out the process, hoping she could stall until she found some loophole or until I got tired. But I had the evidence and I wasn't about to back down. Every court hearing I saw her trying to put on that bitchy, innocent act, but I knew better. I knew what she was capable of. Some days I'd sit in the courtroom watching her act like she was the victim, and I'd feel a mix of anger and disgust. She kept lying, claiming she only forged my signature because she was desperate to get out of our marriage, that she never meant to hurt me, that Mark was just a friend. Yeah, right. I knew the truth. She was in love with her brother, and she'd done everything she could to cover her tracks. I also knew she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The texts, the forged documents, everything proved it. Throughout all this, I stayed focused on my kids. I saw how she tried to manipulate them, telling them I was a bad father, that I was trying to take everything away from her. It made me sick. I wanted to protect my children from her lies, but I also knew I had to be careful. She was a master manipulator, and I couldn't let her turn them against me. I spent hours talking to them, reassuring them that I loved them and that everything was going to be okay. I wanted them to see the truth, that their mother was capable of lying, cheating, and stealing. Meanwhile, I kept gathering evidence. I hired a private investigator to follow her, to see if she was meeting Mark or anyone else. Turns out, she was still trying to hide her tracks. I found out she'd been visiting a lawyer's office, trying to get some kind of deal to avoid full accountability. I also learned she'd been trying to sell the house secretly, probably hoping to get as much cash as possible before everything was finalized. That just made me more determined. I wasn't going to let her get away with any more lies or manipulations. One of the most shocking moments came when I finally got her to admit under oath that she forged my signature on the deed. She tried to deny it at first, but I had her dead to rights. Her own words betrayed her. That's when I knew she was losing, and I felt a strange sense of victory mixed with disgust. I remember walking out of that courtroom feeling like I'd fought a war. I'd lost a lot of sleep, a lot of faith, but I'd won the first round. The judge ordered her to pay restitution, to return the money, and to vacate the house. It was a huge relief, but the aftermath wasn't easy. Lisa still refused to accept full responsibility. She kept spinning her tales, claiming I was trying to ruin her, trying to paint herself as the victim. I knew better. I'd seen her true face. She was manipulative, selfish, and ruthless. I started to realize how much I'd been blind for years. The signs had been there all along: her secretive behavior, her lies, her affairs, her obsession with money. I just never wanted to see it. Now everything was out in the open, and I was finally free from her web of lies. The hardest part was watching her try to manipulate the kids, to turn them against me. She would tell them I was a bad father, that I didn't love them, that I was trying to take everything from her. It broke my heart. But I stayed strong, kept showing them love, and made sure they knew the truth. I knew I'd have to prove myself over time, but I was determined not to let her poison them. I wanted them to see that their dad was the one who loved them, who fought for them, who was trying to do right. Now, I'm finally at a point where I can breathe again. The legal battle is nearly over, and I've secured full custody. The house is in the process of being sold, and I've started rebuilding my finances. It's been a brutal journey, and I won't lie, I still feel the sting of betrayal every day. But I've learned a lot. I've learned to trust my instincts, to be more cautious, and most of all, to never let anyone take advantage of me again. If I could give any advice to someone going through something similar, it's this: document everything. Keep your evidence safe. Don't let their lies get to you. Stay focused, stay strong. And most importantly, never underestimate how far someone will go when they're desperate or selfish. Lisa's betrayal taught me that in a way I never wanted to learn, but I'm grateful I finally have my life back. Now it's just about healing and moving forward one step at a time. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me, maybe forever. I thought I knew Lisa, thought I knew us, but everything unraveled so quickly. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible, and the pain of seeing someone you loved turn into someone capable of such deception is almost unbearable. But through it all, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that strength isn't just about fighting back. It's about knowing when to walk away, when to stand firm, and when to rebuild from the ashes. The biggest lesson I take from this is that trust is fragile. And when it's broken, you have two choices: let it destroy you or use it as a catalyst to become stronger. I chose the latter. I may have lost a marriage, but I gained clarity. I gained a new perspective on the people I let into my life, and I learned to be more cautious about who I trust with my heart and my money. I also learned that the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how much someone tries to hide it. Lisa's lies, her manipulations, they all came out in the end, and I'm grateful for that clarity. My kids are my biggest motivation. They see their father as someone who fought for what was right, who didn't back down from betrayal. They're still young, but I want them to grow up knowing that honesty and integrity matter more than anything. They're resilient, and I'm doing everything I can to keep them grounded, safe, and loved. I want to show them that even in the darkest moments, there's a way out, a way to rebuild and move forward. As for Lisa, I hope she finally faces the consequences of her actions. I hope she learns that no amount of lies or manipulations can hide the truth forever. I want her to understand that stealing from her own family, betraying the people who loved her, only leads to destruction. I want her to reflect on what she's done and realize that actions have consequences. But most of all, I want her to find some kind of peace, though I know she's responsible for her own pain now. For myself, I've decided to leave the past behind. I've sold the house, closed that chapter of my life, and started focusing on rebuilding. I've found a new job, one that challenges me and makes me feel alive again. I've been seeing a counselor to work through the emotional scars, and it's helping. I'm not the same person I was before her betrayal, but I'm stronger now, more cautious, more aware. Life is unpredictable, and people can surprise you in the worst ways, but I refuse to let this define me. In the end, betrayal taught me that sometimes the greatest victories come after the deepest wounds. It's a hard lesson, but one I'm grateful for. I'm finally free from the lies, the manipulation, and the betrayal. I've taken back control of my life, my children, and my future. And even though I'll carry the scars for a long time, I know I'll come out of this stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever life throws next. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that even in the darkest moments, there's a flicker of hope, and that hope is what keeps us moving forward.